Welcome to the National Women's Fitness Academy podcast. We're here to talk about women's health, female hormones, body image, and all things health and fitness.
Hello, girls, and welcome back to another episode of the Women's Fitness Academy's podcast. I'm your host, Siggy, one of the WFA's educators and a body image and fitness coach. Today, I'm chatting with the lovely Maeve, who is an online female transformation coach and a competitor at IFBB Figure, who has actually moved from bikini and is currently on prep. So for those who don't know Maeve, well, Maeve and I literally just met right now online. So I want to get to know you a little bit deeper. But before we started recording, we were talking about how we tend to meet certain people in our lives who have been into fitness their whole life since like babies. But then there's ones who have never liked being fit or like taking any interest in fitness, just like yourself, who now is so involved in this. So I would love to know, like, what made you switch from, not wanting to be at a PE class to being an online coach now?
Yeah, so interesting one for sure, because anytime my mum runs into my old PE teacher and tells him I'm now working as a coach, he's like, sorry, is this the same girl we're talking about? But I think the main thing for me, I'm Irish and went to school in Ireland. And when you're in school in the 90s, 2000s in Ireland, it's all GAA, team sports, ball sports. Like it's a lot of that kind of aspect of fitness. When I was growing up, I didn't have people around me who trained in the gym, or I didn't know bodybuilders. My family certainly weren't into it. So I was kind of pushed into these activities that I really didn't enjoy doing. I was never a team sport person. It stressed me out. I did not enjoy being hit by balls. I've ran off pitches, all that kind of stuff. That was me. And then to only really find the gym later when I kind of gone to college, I had kind of developed an interest, I suppose, in nutrition end of things and kind of health and wellness. And then I guess found the whole movement side of things and discovered that the gym was definitely something that just let me do me when I wanted to do me. And I was in total control of what happened. And that was my little slice of time for me to just work on me. And I think, yeah, it was just such a different kind of experience and environment to what I'd kind of maybe seen as a younger person growing up. I just wasn't exposed to that kind of an option. And yeah, just later in life when I found it, I had finally kind of found the thing people talk about, that you need to find the thing that you enjoy. And I just hadn't found it up until then. So yeah, it was a love at first sight kind of deal. Well, love hate at first sight. Still love hate. I mean, who loves Bulgarians? But here we are. And now I get to do it as my job, and I love it.
I love how you mentioned Bulgarian squats, because that literally came up to my mind, how you're like the love-hate relationship. And I think all our listeners now can relate to hating Bulgarians, but loving them because they're so good for us.
So good. Like I hadn't done them in a few weeks, and I did them a few weeks ago, and I was like, I am in trouble tomorrow. So good, but so disgusting.
The trouble with Bulgarians, I find that whenever your coach adds tempo or pauses or drop sets, I think drop sets, whenever I see a drop set of Bulgarians in my program, I actually curse my coach's name.
Yeah, that's disgusting. My coach is definitely a big fan of tempo work and pauses. So yeah, that's fun.
I feel as if our clients probably think the same way when we give them Bulgarians.
Yeah. I mean, I do love tempo work. I'm not going to lie. I do really like it. So yeah, the girls get some nasty surprises, but only when they're ready for it.
Yeah, it's so true. So true. And I love the fact how we've opened this conversation about how far you've come from, not enjoying exercise to something that you absolutely love, and you found something that you're very passionate about. And I feel as if this is something that has been coming up a lot lately with my clients, about them finding that passion within their lives, whether it's career wise, or whether it's like hobbies, too often we stay in a certain environment and we're just doing it for the sake of doing because we're so used to. And like you said, when you were younger, you were doing stuff that you didn't really enjoy, and you weren't even led to that point of actually following your passion where you've, eventually found it yourself. However, I find that a lot of people literally just go through the motions of life, not realizing that, hey, you can actually step out of that comfort zone and find something that you truly fucking love. And whether, like, it could be like the most stupidest thing to someone else, but it could mean so much to you.
Oh, 100%. It might not even be fitness. Like, it might be flower arranging. Like, but it's something that fulfills you and makes you feel like you're getting what you need, like, from kind of your routine, and it's making you happy, and you're not kind of just doing something to fit in, or doing something because you feel you have to, or because it's good for you. It's just something that brings you kind of contentment.
100%. And it's so good that we're talking about this, because I had this reflection this morning when I was on my morning walk, and I'm very diligent about certain routines in my life that make me happy. And I realize sometimes I'll do certain things just because I have to, but it's just like, why am I doing this if it's not giving me enjoyment? So I'd love to open this conversation with you. Like, what are some things in your routine that you absolutely love doing, but you found yourself doing it because someone has said that you have to do it, or you're dreading doing them because it's not really giving you that enjoyment?
Oh God, yeah. Every job before this? No.
Yeah.
No, I mean, look, any job or any kind of routine is going to have something you maybe don't enjoy doing. For me and my job, I'm not a tech person. I love coaching. I love the client relationships. I love, programming. I love giving feedback. I love all of that. But when it comes to tech, oh God, but I have to do it. It will take me a hell of a lot longer than it would take someone else, but it has to be done. That does not bring me a lot of fulfillment, but that's one of those things where you kind of have to suck it up and do it. I think within my own routine, that's actually something that I made a conscious decision a few weeks ago. I'm very kind of structured, and everything is planned out, and everything is kind of, I know what I'm doing, and I'm so guilty of just, oh, but I'll just do this email, oh, but I'll just finish these reviews, oh, but I'll just do this, that, then do the other, and I'm just never off the laptop. So I made a rule a few weeks ago that I need to start doing more things that I don't usually do, that are going to make me happier and calmer, and like, just bring me back down to earth, and not focusing on like the laptop or work or whatever. So I made a rule that Sundays are no laptops, and I have to get outside to the beach, or for a walk, or for something. So it could be an activity, could be something completely chill, but I just have to remove myself from the work environment and kind of, get a little bit get a little bit of outside, and get a little bit of vitamin C, and kind of just reset myself.
It's so important. And I feel as if, like, a lot of us as coaches, we preach about, healthy routines and getting outdoors, and like putting ourselves away from just work, because too often, and I'm sure you can relate to this, that we get too consumed about work, 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 because we're so used to doing it. And then we end up forgetting about our own needs. And too often I found myself a couple of times this year as well, and the previous year, is I found myself that I'll be doing way too much and I'll burn myself out. And they'll be like, all right, Sig, like, come on, like, let's keep doing the routines that you enjoy doing, but then you revert back. And then you're like, fuck, like, why is this happening? But I guess we always just get better by doing more of it. Like you said, just doing that one thing to take that step forward. Because if we're constantly feeling burnt out and nothing's changing, it's just like, well, you need to have that pep talk with you going, okay, well, let's make that change. Otherwise, you're going to feel miserable for the rest of your life.
Yeah. And it's like trying to listen to your own advice sometimes, because I know exactly what I'd say to a client. Like, and I have said it. And I know that the 100 million times I have said to a client, like, you need to just take a step back. You need a little slice out of your day. You need the 10 minutes, or you need a day where you're just, meeting friends, or going for brunch, or going to see a movie, or going to do something. And then I'm the worst at taking my own advice. So it's kind of that if you can kind of appreciate then when you're trying to kind of get a client to do a new habit or a new behavior or, you know, change something in the routine, you kind of appreciate like how difficult that actually is to implement sometimes when it's not something that we, you know, automatically do, like go to the gym or whatever. We're the opposite. We need to, you know, take the steps in the other direction to try and like calm our routine a little bit better. So yeah, it's just a good reminder of kind of there's always a little bit of resistance, no matter what the new behavior or new thing you want to do is. There's always a little bit of resistance when you're trying to change it first.
And resistance is a big one, especially for us as coaches or just as human beings. What have you found that has worked for you to take your own advice?
Oh God, I think just keeping at it. Like I've definitely tried to implement this in the past for sure, and I do well, and this, like, someone comes to work with me and they're like, oh, I can stay on it for a few weeks and then I go off track or whatever. And I think it's the same sometimes for me. Like I've had to just try a few times, and yes, it's kind of like, oh, it fell by the wayside, but I'll be like, no, this needs to pick back up. Like you're feeling tired, you're feeling burnt out, you need to start, you know, doing this behavior again. You know how good you feel. I feel so much less stressed the last few weeks since I've started doing it. So I think when I see the payoff and I remind myself of how worthwhile it is, I'm like, okay, this is staying. And it's exactly the same as when someone finally stays the course with a program or a plan. They see how good they feel, they see how worthwhile it is, and then they're like, oh, I'm motivated to do more. So I think it just works the exact same way.
100%. And I love the fact that you also mentioned about noticing how it pays off as well, because too often we'll be easily ticking the boxes of going, cool, I've done my 10,000 steps, I've done my meal prep, I've done my workout, but it's just like over time, that consistency is what gets you the results. And like you said, too often we don't take our own advice. But then when we're reaping the benefits, it's just like, there's proof right there. This is why I need my morning walk.
Yeah, the penny drops.
Yeah. I love when that moment happens and you're just like that aha moment. You're like, why didn't I listen to myself sooner?
Yeah, why didn't I listen to it? And like for me, it was I decided I'm gonna have the ultimate chill day a few weeks ago, and had gone to the beach, had met the girls for coffee, had done all of these nice little things during the day, and then I decided, oh, I have a nice glittery bath bomb, I'll have a bath, and set the alarm, had my face mask on, and I lay there and I was completely chill, like completely at ease, completely peaceful. And I was like, this is half an hour. And how much better do I feel after that half an hour of just lying here with my eyes closed, with a candle on, versus half an hour of watching Friends on Netflix? Like, yes, you're still chilling out, but it's the mental break from like being switched on and having to pay attention to something, and you just completely zen yourself. So yeah, that was a nice little lesson for myself.
I love that. And those lessons are so important for our mental health. And I find too often that we don't give ourselves enough credit for it as well.
Yeah, 100%.
What is, speaking of lessons, literally, I just thought of this really good question. What is one lesson that you've learned about yourself over in the year of 2022?
Oh, that I am very resilient, I would say. I without going into things, there's a few people and a few things that have not gone right this year, whether it's personally or in the business. And to be where I am now at the end of the year, coming out of it all with my head above water, and not to have killed anybody or done anything crazy or given up. I just kind of, I can, as hard as all of the issues maybe were at the time, I can kind of appreciate, like, okay, if you can handle that year and you can handle these situations and you can kind of process everything and you're still here, you're good. Like 2023 is going to be fine. So 2022 was testing, a lot of good experiences, but a lot of very trying weeks or months or situations. So yeah, I would say that I'm quite resilient when I need to be.
I love that. And I can totally relate to that, because 2022 tested literally every bit of my mental capacity, of my soul, my body. So I Yeah, I can fully relate to this. And I actually
Hmm.
can't wait to see what 2023 brings us. What is something
Yeah,
that you're wanting to bring into 2023?
I think I was thinking about this the other day, and I want, not that I'm overly into I won't say overly into mindset, but overly into kind of the airy fairiness of, like, manifestation and stuff like that. Like, I'm not overly into that stuff. But I said this week, this year, I want to leave absolutely every negative thing with me, like bad vibes, bad experiences. I don't want grudges. I don't want all of this. And I just want to enter 2023 with a really clear, kind of focused and positive mindset. And that's, I suppose, it's just not something that I would have actually talked about and said out loud and kind of put set in stone. Like, I am leaving all of this in a box in 2022. 2023 is a new year. And I think, kind of, for me, letting go of all of that negativity is just going to help me grow more and help me kind of develop myself and business and stuff in the new year, rather than letting all of these kind of negative things that I can't control and that are done, they're over. It's only my mind that is still in them, and they're only going to hold me back. So I'm just about letting go of everything that's going to hold me back next year, and just, clean slate and focus, and good times and good vibes.
Yeah, amen to that. Speaking of
Yeah.
negative energy, what are some things that have set that negative, aspect in your life? Is it more like environment, people? Is it like work related?
Mm. Yeah. So I was a bit like, I was all over the place this year, and in as in all over the world. I was in Thailand, I was in Portugal, I was in Belgium, I was in the UK, I was in Ireland, I was in Norway. So there was a lot of different environments, a lot of different people, a lot of different kind of paces of life, a lot of different ways of doing things. But one thing, and I actually spoke about this on a YouTube recently, it was the whole environment situation, how it affects us, and how you making the decision to change your environment and to get out of that environment is probably the best thing you will ever do for yourself. Because I noticed, when I'm at home, let's say in Ireland, I love my family, I love my friends, I love seeing people, but that environment for me is just toxic. It's just not somewhere that I can thrive. It's not somewhere I feel very happy. It's not somewhere I'm productive or creative. It doesn't draw out all of those qualities in me. And by changing that and coming back to Perth, the minute I landed here was just like, yeah, I'm good. Like, my soul, everything felt right. We're good. We can do this kind of thing, and all of those good qualities and good traits started to come out again. And it was so noticeable for me when that small change in environment, like, well, I mean, it's a very far and very distant change in environment, but this could go, if you're in a gym, say, and you have big physique goals, but you're in, let's say, a little local, not so great equipped chain, whatever, and you're just like, oh, this is so uninspiring. Like, there's no one I want to look like here. There's no one training hard here. Like, it's hard to kind of really push yourself in environments where you're not surrounded by others who are doing the same. And if that's your gym, change gym.
Mm.
Go seek out somewhere where you are going to witness people training at a high level, performing at a high level, getting progress at a high level, someone that you can look up to. Or if it's your job and you're miserable going to work and you're crying yourself, I've been in that situation. I've cried in my car going into work because I was so frustrated and so unfulfilled, and I just hated it so much. I was just desperate, and I'd wipe away the tears and go into work. That's not normal. Like, that is not normal, and you need to change if that's happening. And that could be anything. Like, that could be a relationship, it could be a job, it could be, a course, it could be your gym, it could be your country. Like, it could be so many different things. And I think people just, not that they forget that their environment affects them, but they forget that they can change it by just deciding, I need to change this, and this has to be different for me to succeed.
Mm. It's so important for everyone to realize that your environment matters. And I've spoken about this so many times, and I'm sure you're a very
Yeah,
big advocate about it because I can feel the passion within you. And you also mentioned that in previous jobs you were crying yourself before going into
yeah,
work. And I think this is something that a lot of people are scared of, shifting away from an environment that they're so used to,
yeah.
thinking that they're comfortable and happy, but then realizing that actually no, they're not. They've just been doing this because they're just going through that flow of like Monday to Friday, and then they're just dwelling their emotions on the weekends. And I can relate to that because
Yeah.
being in fitness, I was like in sales and corporate and stuff, and absolutely hated it. Like it served a purpose back then because I was having different goals, but thinking about it right now, and I'm like, wow, like how did I even do that lifestyle? It's crazy
Mm,
to think that. And obviously we know change is fucking scary. And you're and literally a perfect example of this, like moving from Ireland to Australia, to a country you've never been to, you don't know anyone, just starting a new life. That is a huge change. Like not many people
yeah,
do that. And not many
yeah.
people dream about moving away, and they have these big
Mm,
goals of living elsewhere and a career or like money freedom, but they still remain really stuck in that little like comfortable box. So like,
they won't take the risk.
yes. So
They just
what
won't
made
take the risk.
you, yes, I love this. What made you take that risk?
I think for me, so growing up in Ireland, like, not to shit on it, but it was just never somewhere I felt fully happy or fully like uh, I was meant to be there, like without sounding, crazy, but it just wasn't something that was giving me what I needed. There was just always something missing for me. And clearly the sun was missing, but and that was definitely a draw for me moving away. But it was something that I wanted to do for a long time. Like it was always in my kind of, future plan to get out and to move away, because I guess like where I'm from was a small village, like rural enough Ireland. There wasn't really much going on. And I just, I knew that when I had gone through school, I'd gone through college, I'd done the university, I'd got my degree, I got into a big company, I'd done this and that and the other, and I was still unhappy. I was just living my life for things. Like my mum told me I had to do the course, and I couldn't just go and do X, and I was kind of just living by these like society rules that I had to do because I just hadn't really figured out what I could do yet, you know? So it was like, oh, well, if I'm not doing this, what am I going to do? And I suppose it takes a little while for you to grow, number one, the confidence in yourself to take such a risk. But I think it has to nearly get bad enough as well for you to say it's make or break. Like this is
Mhm.
happening, or I'm just never gonna it's just never gonna happen, and I'm just not going to ever be happy. And I think it just did get to that stage with me, and I said I either do this, quit my job, book a one-way flight, and get on that plane to fix myself and to discover what I'm meant to discover and what I'm meant to experience and see the world and do all of this, or I can be stuck here where I'm miserable and there's not really any opportunity. And that is, of course, scary. Like I was, what was I? What age was I coming over here? Like I was in my late 20s. It wasn't as if I was out of school and I just finished college and the world was my oyster. Like I was, like older than a lot of people that decide, oh, I'll go on a working holiday visa. But I just knew I had to do it, and I couldn't wait around for people to come with me, because maybe they had other commitments and maybe they wouldn't have money and maybe they didn't want to go. And I just knew I had to do it. And people thought I was insane. I went into my job, which I loved at the time. I was back flying. So I was a cabin crew before I came over, and I adored it. And I handed in my notice, and a few weeks later, I was on a one-way flight, went around to Asia on my own, and landed here, and I just knew. I texted my mom after 2 weeks, and I was like, Mom, I'm not coming home. I'm not. I'm where I'm meant to be. Like, yeah.
Your
I just think though people are. Oh, sorry. People are so afraid of the risk that they don't see past that like temporary feeling of fear, or like, oh my God, what am I doing? Versus what you get on the other side of that fear. Like that's a very temporary kind of stress situation or anxiety or, scary situation. But since I made that decision, everything else has just been so much easier, and I
Mm.
felt so much better. So while it is scary, of course, to jump, I think that's the exact minute you need to jump. You just, I think you just know deep down. And like, if you just block out the fears and the doubts and kind of like crawl through them and figure out at the end of it, like what you really want, like what's behind all the other stuff, that, yeah, just, just something you have to do, or else you're just going to be stuck in the same place, never moving forward and never getting what you want. And that's scarier to me than taking a risk.
Yeah, it's so true. It's like that old saying, when too often people will think about what if it goes wrong, it's just like, oh, well, let's
Yeah,
change that mind frame and think about what if it goes right? What if you will have that success
exactly.
that you've always wanted? And unfortunately, like that's how us humans are wired. We're wired to think of the negative first before of the positive, like as a survival mechanism. But again,
Yeah.
like yourself, we can switch that narrative in our head if we truly believe that there's something out there bigger for us than what we're actually doing right now.
Yeah, I literally said to myself, okay, let's look at the worst possible scenario that can go wrong with me moving to Australia. It's that I have to move home.
Yeah.
That is the worst thing that can happen, is that I have to ring my mom and dad, say, oh my God, I have no money, book me a flight. That is the worst possible scenario. Is that something I can deal with and get over and, work past? Yeah, probably. So I think when you kind of face that and you're like, okay, well, is that something I'm okay with risking? It's probably not as bad as you think it's going to be, really, when you just face it front on.
100%. Yeah. And speaking of like taking risk and putting ourselves in a comfortable situation as a competitor, that's something
Mm,
that takes a risk, not just like
mm,
physically, but mentally as well. And I feel as if, you've come from the bikini background and now you're doing more figure. And
mm.
that takes more of I guess, an uncomfortable leap in the
Oh, for sure.
competitor stance.
Yeah, for sure. And I think like it's massive, not a risk as such, like nothing bad is going to happen, but obviously you risk not hitting the goal, you risk not being big enough, you risk not presenting yourself as well. But I think the same situation in the like environment or the feeling fulfilled, I totally like, I appreciate and respect bikini athletes so much, and I think it's such an incredible look, and like they're stunning. Like they bring it. But I knew for me, it wasn't where I was fully fulfilled and fully kind of in love with the end result for me. Like my last show was the Arnold back in 2018, 19, I think was the last one in Melbourne. And I I was there doing bikini, and I sat in the audience and watched the figure girls, and I was thinking of it beforehand, and I just knew, looking at that, I need to do that. I want to look like that, and I don't care what it takes. Like, I am going to work so hard to make that happen, because I would rather, risk it and work super hard for 6 months and love what I've produced. And yes, it's incredibly difficult. Like, oh my God, it's so hard. But the payoff and the reward for me, and seeing, how the work has paid off and stuff like that, and how you can completely rebuild and change and, reinvent yourself. I just love that process. So yeah, I love like the learning aspect of it, and kind of knowing you're working towards something completely for you and not for other people. Because I know, to a lot of people, figure isn't maybe what a lot of girls would want to look like, or maybe that guys are going to find attractive, or that other girls are going to even be like, oh, it's a bit much. But I am doing it for me
Mm.
and what I want to do. And I think that's important, because if I was trying to fit in, I would have stuck with bikini. 100%. I would have just done it because I wanted to compete, and that's what everyone does. And I don't want to go outside the box, and I don't want to, put my hand up and for people to be like looking and watching and doing that. But I was never going to feel fully satisfied with it. So I just made the decision again to take a risk and go for it. And all you can do is your best. And that's just what I'm going to try and do.
I love that. And it's so true. Like, no, not dissing those who do bikini. I've done bikini, previously and stuff, but you mentioned a good point that too often we'll stay comfortable with what we're doing instead of actually seeking further. And I love the fact that we're talking about figure competing as well, and you're doing it for yourself. And too often we know that a lot of people go into the competing industry to prove a point to other people or for validation. And we know that's such a toxic way of going into competition. And we have to be open about this and honest. Like, you know what? Like when I competed many, many years ago, it wasn't to win. It was literally for me to get back at an ex-boyfriend going, look at me, like kind of like a fuck you moment. I look great, you look like shit, which was totally stupid of me because it just, it caused a lot of havoc to my health. But too often, but too often people don't chat about it. And I feel as if, in my eyes, there's nothing more sexy than seeing a woman with muscles. I don't know.
I
don't know what it is. I love muscular women because I find that those type of women work the hardest.
Yeah, it's nearly the mindset thing that is the differentiating factor. Like they have just this savage kind of mentality going into their sessions, and they are meticulous with their tracking their progress and upping their progress and leveling up and just always being better. And you can see that, like, even if you don't necessarily like the look of a certain physique, you have to appreciate the hard work, the dedication, the devotion, the like self-belief that it took to get there.
100%. And for those who don't like muscular women, well, that's fine. Like not everyone needs to like it, but that is something that I can really look at a woman, have a conversation with her and be like, wow, like you're a hard worker, like good on you.
Oh yeah. And if I see someone somewhere out and they look great, I will go up and tell them because I can appreciate what it took for them to get there. And I'm like, you look great. Like your shoulders are amazing, or your back looks great. I'll always try to say it if it's not weird. But I don't know. But I just think it's always nice to get that recognized, because I think not that you need the validation or whatever, but it's just nice to be recognized, and it's just nice that someone can appreciate your hard work sometimes. Yeah, so I'll always try and say it if I see it.
Yeah, I love it. It's so funny. Maybe next time, who knows, maybe if you're in Melbourne or I'll be in Perth, I'll be like, oh, Maeve, there you are. Nice back. And you're like, oh my God, nice shoulders.
Yeah. I know it would make my day if someone complimented my back or shoulders. So.
You know what? Like there's nothing more encouraging than, like we said, we're not doing it for other people and getting that validation, but it is very encouraging for other people to see your hard work, and it makes you think I'm doing this for me, but this is really nice that people can actually appreciate what I'm doing as well.
Yeah, exactly.
It's so true. What are the plans in terms of competing for 2023?
2023. So finally getting back on stage after 4 years. I'm very excited. So my Perth show is going to be the 1st of April. So yeah, I'm on prep for about a month now. Things are going good. Nothing too crazy yet. And then the national show will be near Brisbane in Queensland on the 29th of April. So that's the competing plans next year. And this season, look, like I'm not going in with crazy expectations because it's my first time doing figure, and I very much so need to just see where I lay and where I compare to people, and like definitely going into the season with that expectation and kind of, you're not going to be the biggest yet, and I know this, and going in and just being able to see where I measure up and see the work that needs to be done. That's kind of the goal for this season. Obviously I would love to place, but I'm not putting crazy expectations or pressure on myself. But yeah, and then I think for the 2024 season, I'll be kind of armed with all of that feedback and, can kind of implement what I need to do over the kind of 18 months before I go again. So that's the the plans for this season.
I love that. What's like your go-to, I guess, pleasure during comp prep? Because I know everyone has like their go-to thing, whether it's like food or activities or like self-care. Like, is there one thing that you're like looking forward to doing, regularly over this prep?
Frozen Coke Zeros.
Yeah.
they're definitely my like, yummy on a hot summer's day. I think, yeah, food wise with me this prep is very different. So when I was doing bikini and working with other coaches, I was kind of flexible dieting, macros, if I wanted something I could fit it in. This prep is very, very different with a very different style of coach and approach. So I'm enjoying it. It's a challenge, it's a new thing. I feel really good doing it, but food focus just isn't maybe as there as much. Don't get me wrong, I can't wait for a donut, but it's just not it's not being factored in, so it's not being thought about as much. But I think what we said kind of at the beginning of the call, the factoring in the self-care, because it's just not something that I would have focused on massively in other preps. And I know that my mental state was maybe not 100% by the end of it. And like, obviously that happens to everyone. Like after a diet, you're just like tired, hungry, a bit blah. But I just think if I take these little steps, which I'm really enjoying, and they're having such a positive effect, that's just, yeah, something I look forward to every week now that I know it's part of my routine. It's like, it's nearly when you have your like off plan meal planned for a Saturday and you're fine during the week because you're really looking forward to that and you'll just enjoy that meal. And I know because I work so hard during the week and a lot of my hours in the day are taken up and I'm always on my phone, I'm always on my laptop, I'm answering something. I know on a Sunday, that's my day to switch off, the phone's in the bag, I'm at the beach and it's just chill time. So yeah, that's really what I'm looking forward to at the moment.
I love that. It's the small little things, that guilty pleasure that gives us a little bit of enjoyment.
Yeah, or a walk, like if I need to just pick myself up, a walk along the water. Like I'm in stunning area in Perth, East Perth, and we just have Swan River, and you can walk along in the morning, go get a coffee, walk along there, listen to a podcast. It's just that for me is just a little slice of heaven in my day. I really enjoy it.
I seriously need to get my way to Perth. Seriously.
It's beautiful. It's yeah, stunning. I absolutely adore it here.
So good. I love that. Maeve, thank you so much for jumping on today with me. This conversation has led us, well, I'm sure it's led me to a lot of like aha moments, but I'm sure a lot of our listeners are sitting back going, maybe there's a little bit of more reflection that I need to do for this new year, or a little bit more changes to taking, those risks if they're wanting some changes. But before we head off, where can our followers find you?
Yeah, for sure. I would love you to pop over and say hello. So you can find me over on Instagram and it is at maevekavanagh.fitness, or for any kind of coaching related stuff, it is just bossbodiescoaching.com.
Love that. Well, girls, if you enjoyed today's podcast as much as I did, please make sure that you screenshot it, tag us at the Women's Fitness Academy, tag Maeve, tag myself. And then till next time, let's start doing a little bit more reflection. I think this is something that many of us need to start doing more of. Wouldn't you agree, Maeve?
I absolutely do. I hope everyone's heading into 2023 now with a brand new outlook and feeling ready to kill it.